Are there specific bits of the business which you simply just don't have visibility on right now? We're trying to figure out how we're going to restart the economy. Where exactly can you kind of not get a handle on what's happening specifically?
Yeah, really, Guy, it's the small business component that's tough to predict right now. That's where we have the least amount of visibility. It's where we've seen kind of the least amount of rebound in those states and provinces that have reopened. And so if there is a little bit of good news there, it's that it does appear that those small businesses are going to at least attempt to reopen, because the number of customers that are truly canceling and saying, I'm throwing in the towel, that number is surprisingly small. But other than that, we don't have great visibility with small business. Big business is coming back more quickly.
Let's just focus a little bit on that SME sector, just try and get an understanding of what is happening here. What are they saying to you? They're going to try and restart their businesses. Are they saying that they're going to need kind of 50% capacity? Are they going to be back to 100% capacity? Are they giving you any clues as to what kind of needs that they are going to have in terms of servicing their businesses?
Well, so two things are happening with small businesses. They are either calling and saying, look, shut our service off completely or reduce our service. We've seen, in terms of reductions, we've seen about a 10%, a little bit less than 10% of the commercial yards that we pick up on a regular basis have been reduced. So that might indicate an answer to your question there, which is that they're going to come back at about a 10% lower level. It is hard to say what happens with those customers that have totally shut down. It's, as I said, it's a small number. It's only about 1%. Actually, the exact number is about 0.7% that have completely shut off their service. And I suspect that those might be customers that just say, I'm not going to restart my business. Those that are in that do try and attempt to come back, we don't have a good feel for how quickly they come back or to what extent.
And I know, Jim, it's been important to you to try and work with the small businesses that you cater to, because obviously everybody's in this together, and what's good for them will also hopefully eventually be good for you too. How much so can you allow leeway? How long can you wait for payments for? How much leeway can you offer on payments?
You know, I mean, I think some of it is dependent on geography. Some of it's dependent on line of business. I mean, if I think about hotels and restaurants and football stadiums, I mean, those places are probably not going to open for quite some time, and so we've shut down price increases to football stadiums. Maybe not a good example because those are pretty big businesses, but some of these smaller boutique hotels and restaurants and the like, those are on a kind of an indefinite hold. And so we've shut down price increases and fees to them, and really, if they've shut their business down completely, then there really isn't anything to pay on. We will extend payment terms. It's going to be a little bit of it's going to be based really on the circumstances. It's not going to be a uniform decision.
So I know you've seen double-digit declines in industrial and commercial volumes, and then a pickup in residential by maybe 25%. How much leeway do you have with fixed contracts? Are cities and municipalities trying to get you to lower your prices, for example? Can you negotiate with them?
Well, they're certainly not trying to get us to lower prices, because we are picking up quite a bit more volume. Each trash can has about 20 or 25% more in it than it did pre-COVID, just because so many people are now staying home. But I would tell you it's going to be a real focus area for us. We've got to make sure that we're adequately compensated here, and I haven't read a single article that says that every person that went to kind of work from home is going to return. I've read articles that say as much as 50% of the people that went home will stay home. We're thinking it's probably closer to 30% for our own business, maybe 25%, but still, there is going to be additional trash or recycling in those cans, and that was not contemplated when we negotiated any of these contracts. So we have to change that. We have to go back uniformly with all of these municipal agreements and renegotiate them to what is the new normal.
That's interesting. More people working from home. It's going to be a shift away from the corporate sector, maybe towards the work from home style of employment. Jim, just kind of as you deal with these municipalities, a lot of them are pretty financially stressed right now. Are they giving you clues as to the degree to which they are actually able to pay the bills? Some of these cities, some of these states are really under financial duress right now.
Well, no, that's true. I think I would tell you we have not gotten a lot of indication there, but you're right. I mean, some of these municipalities are going to be in kind of dire straits financially. Most of this gets passed through. I mean, well, I'd say all of it gets passed through to the individual residents. So in those cases, we may see some residents who are now unemployed having a difficult time paying. For those that are not necessarily an individual bill for a customer, but are paid by the municipality, then we don't have a good indication at this point.
Jim, your people are essential workers. They're key workers. They are critical workers. Do you think that is being reflected right now in just society's appreciation of what your people do?
I think so. I mean, I actually saw an ad on TV last night. It was an appreciation ad. We've all seen a lot of appreciation ads, as we should, for the doctors and the nurses and the healthcare workers. I did see an ad last night for sanitation workers, which I very much appreciated. So we're not getting the same level of recognition that others get, and certainly the healthcare providers should be at the very top of the heap. But I think people appreciate what we're doing. Sometimes we're not seen because we're there at odd hours, or we don't talk to folks typically when we're out and about. We're just doing our jobs. But I think people very much appreciate what we're doing. I get a number of notes to that effect.
Certainly, it's been pretty phenomenal because the change in people's behaviour was immediate, right? So you would have needed to pivot extraordinarily quickly in order for it not to become a situation much worse than it was, given that we were already dealing with sanitation and the need for sanitation. How difficult was it, Jim, to pivot your protocols and, to make sure that things got done in an even cleaner way than before?
If you had asked me that question 6 months ago and said, Jim, how tough would it be to move 20,000 people to a work-from-home environment, or how tough would it be to socially distance everyone at your operations, I would have told you, Vonnie, that would be difficult. But I think because it was an absolute necessity, we did it amazingly well, amazingly efficiently, and amazingly quickly. We literally moved those 20,000 folks to a work-from-home environment, took care of all the technology needs, and did that in a period of about 7 days, maybe a little less, and then established very strict social distancing protocols. Nobody had ever even heard of that. What's social distancing? And all of a sudden, COVID-19's out there, and everybody has to stand 6 feet apart. So that's hard for a social group of people. But I've been out at some of our facilities, and the first place I went, we were all too close to the coffee machine. And I said, look, we've got to really establish strict social distancing protocols. That was way back in mid-March. And now if you go to one of our facilities, everybody pays attention to the protocols.
Right, and I know that you've extended up to 40 hours of pay continuity for people who might be impacted by this as well, so well done on that. I do want to ask about your relationship with China recently, given everything that's happened over the last few weeks and the amount of rhetoric that's been bandied about. You did a lot of business with China. Does that continue now?
Prior to COVID-19, we had started to, not by our own choosing, but really by China's choosing, move recycled materials away from China. I would tell you that 100% of our mixed paper, for example, 2.5, 3 years ago was going to China, 100% of it. Now it's literally 0%. So the large majority of our recycled material is now staying within the U.S. and Canada. There certainly is a need for that. I mean, all of these recycled materials they turn into products such as toweling and paper towels and boxes for groceries and medical supplies. So there is absolutely a need to continue with recycling. But our relationship with China has changed dramatically, not just because of this pandemic, but just because of the change that China made about a year and a half ago.